Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
So I'm going to segue into David here, but I want to say something that sort of enables this to happen. So even as Google has built out, more and more capabilities around search and is doing all these amazing things on the back end, there's kind of a general perception that search quality or the search experience is becoming degraded or more degraded or something. It's not as good as it used to be. I think that's a kind of anecdotal view that a lot of people in the industry have. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is because they're pushing more and more ads into the SERP. And we saw sort of an interesting example of that last week. So you wanted to talk about that, David.
Yeah, a Twitter user who I've not come across before, Saad Ali Khan, tweeted to Barry Schwartz and to Joy that he had discovered what he thought was a new ad unit, which was the query was shoes or something related to shoes, and there was the sort of classic Google Shopping carousel of ads at the top of the result, and then a totally separate result for shoes near him. And then below that, a set of pack listings with shoes highlighted in the photos. And so we're seeing this, I think it sort of ties so many stories today that we've been talking about together. We have a increasingly visual SERP. You hardly see any text, even 2 or 3 scrolls on a mobile device. You're seeing images of shoes with price information, and then images of shoes near you with price and location information, and then locations with images of what you're looking for. So there's just no, the 10 blue links element here is just totally absent from the first 3 or 4 scrolls on a mobile device for a very high purchase intent, e-commerce type of query, which is just really, really interesting. Greg, you and I were talking in the green room before we started recording that we had sort of seen these local inventory ads before, more sort of blended into the typical Google Shopping carousel. But now, at least in this test, or not even a test, this particular new ad unit, it seems like they've actually been separated. And so the SERP really is, as I sort of predicted, I guess, but not quite to the right level and not quite to didn't quite get the year right, but that the SERP is becoming ads and knowledge panels when you're talking about local results. And that's real. I mean, we'll link to this post in the recap of this episode, but you just have to look at this SERP and say, where is my, sort of classic text link, click the link, choose my size, check out on a website, enter all my information. Like that experience is totally gone from these new mobile SERPs. And importantly, to sort of tie back to Mike's comments around drone delivery and Google's positioning against Amazon, it's like Google is leaning into their clear competitive advantage over Amazon. And it strikes me that they are trying to provide this sort of Amazon-like end-to-end experience as best they possibly can, where they don't actually control the sort of checkout and delivery mechanism in the same way that Amazon does. But Amazon also can't offer products right away near you. And so I think they're trying to sort of lean into these sort of local-centric ad units and local-centric search results as a means to maybe shift some of the sort of default e-commerce thinking for most consumers away from Amazon and maybe back to Google in some way.
Well, I think you have to think about it as commerce, not e-commerce, because it really is an amalgam. Yeah. And I think that Google will develop the back end to process the order, and it will either get picked up at the local store or drone delivered or whatever. It will be a combination project, and I don't think e-commerce describes it.
No, and Bill Reddy is the VP of Commerce, not e-commerce, and that's explicitly their strategy, is that they see themselves as a kind of hub for all kinds of merchants, whether they be local or e-commerce or some buy online, pick up in store kind of scenario. I'm not sure that Google will ultimately try and host the shopping cart. They've gone back and forth on that. They recognize the variability of the experience that they were offering. So there was a point at which a few years ago they started there was a new Google shopping experience and they were hosting the shopping cart. You checked out on Google and then the merchant fulfilled. And I think that they backed away from that because I think it's just really.
That's very much still there. And you get a little badge that says buy on Google. I mean, I think it's even a faceted search
Really?
in the shopping experience.
Well, they didn't say anything about, I haven't heard anything about that in a while. So I was assuming they had kind of eased up on that. But that was their attempt to try and make the experience more uniform, more Amazon-like. But so maybe they are still pushing forward.
I think it's still, it may be sort of on its way out potentially, but it's certainly still there in Google Shopping.
Well, so it's interesting. I talked a little bit to Bill Reddy at an event ahead of the Google Marketing Live, and it was technically an off the record event, so I can't quote him or anything. But he was sort of talking about. I was asking about Pointy and getting small business inventory online, and he was saying that their partners have been really instrumental in helping that. They've got WooCommerce and they've got Shopify, and I think others. And so with this collection of partners that cater to small businesses, they've got an enormous reach. Now that's not necessarily in-store inventory, but it is sort of small business inventory. So they're trying to get the big boxes and the bigger retailers, and then with a partnership strategy going to the smaller businesses. So it's very interesting, and this is one of the most dynamic areas on Google, I think, for all the reasons that we've talked about. Revenue opportunity, competing with Amazon, fulfilling user expectations, and the SERP is really changing to reflect how they're building out all these new capabilities with ads. And I think in a product context, ads are not as offensive to people as they are perhaps in another situation.
Drug rehab.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I was doing some research on marketing automation, and it was amazing to me on the desktop. It was amazing to me to see the ads. Right, there were 3 ads at the top, 4 ads at the top, 3 ads at the bottom, generally speaking, and then just a lot of crap in the middle. Just a lot of listicles that were worthless or self-promotional reports. It was just amazing how little genuine information was there, and
putting my tinfoil hat on as president of the society, do you think that might be intentional, that the ad experience has gotten a sort of intentional improvement, and the search experience, has gotten intentional degrading?
because the ads were not that good either. I mean, the ads were
Okay.
typically lead gen. It was download our expensive Forrester report and give us your details, and we'll have some sales rep call you back. That was kind of what it was. But anyway, in a product context, I don't think people care as much. If I'm looking for a particular pair of Nike shoes, or a water purifier, or a space heater, whatever it is, the difference between an ad, especially when showing me that it's available in a local store, and organic content, unless I'm looking for an editorial review of it, it's not going to be as big a deal. It's not going to be as much of a difference. Oh, one final thing that I thought was really interesting along these visual search lines was Google sort of promoting 3D, sort of an augmented reality experience in search. So, getting more and more retailers to upload 3D models of products, and then going right from the search result to the camera to see it in the room, or see it on, whatever that was really interesting, really fascinating to me. Another kind of multimodal search experience on display. Any more jokes, Mike, before we adjourn?
I think got them all out.
Right, good. Well, as I said, everybody have a great weekend, or hope you had a great weekend whenever you're listening to this, and we will see you next week. Thanks again.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.